Imagine that you could exchange one token for another token, but at any time, no matter what happens in the market, you could claim back that exchange at exactly the same rate, a feature typically reserved for redeeming stablecoin products. No volatility, no surprises, just a guaranteed one-to-one swap back. This idea sounds simple, but in decentralized finance, it's revolutionary. Welcome to Atropa's V3 index minters and the power of the claim loop. I've been looking very forward to this episode for a long time. This is the V3 index minters, the decentralized one-to-one claim loop revolution. This has blew my mind when the Mandala team discovered and unlocked this claim loop, and I've been very excited to share it ever since then. So, what is V3? So first of all, let's do an overview. So V1 burns one treasury bill, which is the parent token, to mint one child. So one of those is Fed. V2 burns one token, the parent token, to mint one child with a debenture one-to-one claim loop. So along a spine of tokens, you can claim back by sacrificing the tokens through a loop up that spine. But now V3 works similar in that you can pick any PRC20, so for example pDAI, as a parent token, burn it to mint the child, but with the one key difference, you can now directly claim it back one-to-one. There is a one-to-one redemption loop. So at any point in time, you can redeem the PRC20 parent token for the child regardless of price. Regardless of what the market is doing, it is totally irrelevant. What is pumping, what is dumping, it is one-to-one by code. So the V3 revolution. So borrowing and lending protocols like MakerDAO have redemption mechanisms like this. So basically you can put up collateral like USDC through the peg stability module, the PSM, to mint DAI. You can then redeem your USD back with your DAI at a fixed rate. But this has a centralized governance, stability fees, and restricted tokens. The V3 minters completely decentralize this process. So the V3 revolution. Now, any PRC token on Pulsechain can burn to mint a new token, but also with guaranteed redemption pathway, the one-to-one claim loop. So again, I have to emphasize the profoundness of this. No matter what token it is, there is literally no fear because you can always claim it back off the contract. This is beautiful. No permission is required here. There's no central authority that I have to go through. No voting, no governance, no nothing. No interest fees or complex governance votes. Nothing like this. It removes central points of failure and places all the power in the hands of the community. It's a risk-free burn to mint. The child token is always redeemable one-to-one by code. I have to emphasize this because this is absolutely profound. So the V3 revolution continued. This is as true as DeFi can get. Now, there's things to know about this. The main thing to be aware of is only the first 1,111,111,111 tokens are burn one to mint one. So in other words, burn one token A to mint one token B for the first 1.1 billion tokens. And then after 1.1 billion tokens have been minted, an additional +1 token is required to mint one. So in other words, you'll have to burn 2 token A's to mint 1 token B. So then in total, once 2.2 billion tokens have been burnt, in total, it requires another +1. So therefore, the multiplier increases linearly by +1 every 1.1 billion tokens burned. So this is a very interesting concept because it also makes it deflationary. The parent token becomes deflationary, but with the forever growing incentives and natural supply constraints driven by market dynamics. So this introduces a whole new sphere of possibilities within a decentralized financial ecosystem. The power of V3 as an example. So let's take a look at this pDAI example. So this was the Mandala team who discovered this claim loop. So you burn one pDAI parent, which is one pDAI token to mint one MXDAI, which is the child. So they launched MXDAI off pDAI through the V3 minters. So here you can see on Mandala.io, their website, you can burn 3,333 pDAI for 3,333 MXDAI. You can burn any amount up, basically up to 1.1 billion to always 1-to-1. Then no matter what pDAI does, no matter if pDAI is going to the moon, you can always redeem the MXDAI 1-for-1 back into pDAI, regardless of what price ever does. So here you can see the claim is going back 3,333 that were minted can claim back 3,333 pDAI, no matter what. And you can see here the values that they have. So when this was minted, the output value is higher by $0.13 and this is basically you're losing because it's according to the ratio, which we'll see in just a moment. So this means you can create a risk-free sub-community around any PRC20. So for example, pDAI in this instance, and a yield-bearing asset. It's the ultimate play. And just look at the chart. The chart is absolutely profound. So I've highlighted this the purple here. So prior to that, they didn't know about the claim loop. Then they figured out on the contract that there was a claim loop and they integrated it to their website. Their dev James integrated it. And since then, the price has been basically sideways. It's been stable, like any stable asset that you'll see on any blockchain. So what are some other innovations V3 brings to DeFi? So the stability mechanism, this is profound. So here I've got a made up scenario. So during a bear market, crypto assets usually collapse as holders panic sell, which creates all kinds of volatility. But now, with examples like MXDAI, you could buy pDAI if it ever drops and get more tokens. So in this particular ratio here, MXDAI to pDAI. So in other words, if pDAI is tanking, then the ratio is going to go up. So in other words, you'd basically be able to sell your MXDAI to get more pDAI, or you could burn your pDAI to mint some MXDAI if you didn't have any MXDAI, and then buy the pDAI. So you'll end up with more pDAI because of the arbitrage. Conversely, if MXDAI is tanking, you could do the opposite. You could buy that with your pDAI, then claim it back 1-to-1. So you would sacrifice your MXDAI to claim the pDAI, and then buy the MXDAI back to get more MXDAI. So these are some of the mechanisms that help stabilize the price. It's a win-win loop. This is really, really profound. And it depends on the way that you set up the liquidity as to just how stable this can be. Obviously, in this instance, MXDAI and pDAI is the biggest liquidity pool with MXDAI. So it's going to move basically in tandem with pDAI. So this is the secret. You need to be doing it with Hart's Law as well. So if you want to understand about Hart's Law, I strongly recommend going to check out the videos up the top about liquidity pools. It basically acts as an automatic safety net, preventing catastrophic price collapses. It's like an emergency brake for price volatility. What other features does this have? So stable liquidity. So now we're going into what this means for DeFi. So new/smaller tokens struggle with low liquidity, high volatility, and trust issues from users fearing dumps or rugs. So with the decentralized redemption loop, even small tokens can offer a guaranteed liquidity via the redemption claim loop. This gives immediate market confidence and predictable and stable value floors. Now, has anyone seen this chart before? Does anybody recognize this chart? Who recognizes these price floors? So obviously this is Atropa, and Atropa, through burning of liquidity, which is very similar to this concept because you're burning the liquidity, you're burning the tokens to the contract, you're removing them from sell pressure. This is what Atropa was showing. This is what the Atropa dev was trying to show us with burnt liquidity. And you can see here that it creates price floors. Even here, where there was a radical issue with pDAI on Pulsechain, where there was this quote unquote minting inflation bug, it caused a massive collapse with Atropa because Atropa was bonded very heavily with pDAI. So if pDAI tanks, then Atropa tanks with it. But still, it managed to hold a particular level, which ended up being the previous all-time low. So it fell just below it and it hovered around it and then broke through it again. So this is what burnt liquidity does. So when you think about this from a large scale, you can also give confidence to investors if you're creating a new token with this kind of concept. It's like providing startup tokens with a built-in guarantee. So it basically makes investors feel safe as buying major established tokens. Now, this is very, very important. Community protection. So here, this is the pDAI dump. This is so, so important to emphasize. This is so, so important. If anything, I'm very grateful to what was learned in the flaws of MakerDAO through this whole PMaker fiasco. This was something that really taught us a very valuable lesson. Centralized redemption systems can be exploited or manipulated by large holders and insiders, but decentralized, open to all claim loops means something completely different. So what we did see with the ESM was that Caddy surfacing basically took control of the ESM by taking control of the supply and then voted for the ESM, which caused this massive dump. Now, this can also happen on Ethereum. It's going to take a substantially larger amount of value to be able to do it, but it still can happen. So this is one of the flaws of something with centralized governance. Now, if it's decentralized, open to all claim loops, this means that there's no secret manipulation, there's no insider access, there's no whales which can dominate the governments. Any manipulation attempts immediately get balanced out by arbitrage. The community itself will do the arbitraging, and any manipulation, any price tanking, any dumping, the community takes advantage of that because of the claim loop. Just like I showed earlier, if it's dumping in one particular way, then the community can either just burn to mint or sacrifice to claim back, and then they can stabilize the value back. And this is, again, powerful, powerful, powerful stabilizing feature that is fully decentralized. It's full transparency. It's a level playing field for all. It's as true DeFi as you can possibly get. There is no centralized authority. Even whales can basically be outplayed by smaller players in a system like this. It has built-in fairness by design. So it's like DeFi Lego blocks. So decentralizing this mechanism across any PRC token, any token on Pulsechain, means that any token can serve as collateral, redemption value, or stable pairing, which therefore creates endless combinations of stable economic pairs. Token projects supporting each other's price floors, and then infinite experimentation with DeFi products and financial primitives. So if you think about this again, this is just using an example of V3 going back and forth, claiming one-to-one. What about when you start to integrate V2 and Treasury spines, federal spines? What about when you start to integrate V4? This is when these Lego blocks, these DeFi Lego blocks, start to get really, really interesting for builders. The possibilities literally are endless. This could lead to fully decentralized lending markets, risk-free launch pads for new tokens, stable backed tokens from smaller projects without central vaults or DAOs. It also has reduced dependence. This is a massive feature. So currently, DeFi heavily relies on centralized stablecoins like USDC and USDT, which are vulnerable to censorship and freezing risks. There's already been many wallets and many millions of dollars that have been frozen with USDC and USDT, for example. DeFi redemption loops mean that projects can basically reduce counterparty risks from centralized entities like Circle or Tether and foster truly decentralized assets like pDAI backed 100% by DeFi assets and claim loops. This is a new monetary model. This opens the door to new types of decentralized monetary systems that are basically more resistant to crashes and collapses. So they have built-in price floors. They allow community-driven monetary policies via token issuance choices, and they offer trustless, predictable stability without regulatory or institutional backing or centralized oversight. It's not just a DeFi innovation, it's potentially a new financial infrastructure. So what might it become? So now we're imagining into the future with MXDAI and pDAI. but really expand this idea to any PRC20, any PRC20. It doesn't matter. Could it make volatility in DeFi an outdated issue in 5 to 10 years? Could it mean that tokens no longer depend on external forces to remain stable? They can be basically 100% community driven. Right now, we're seeing this happen with MXDAI and DAI. This is 100% community driven. It's both by the liquidity bonding and the efforts of collectivized liquidity bonding in maintaining that stability, and then also the participation of the community to maintain that stability when it ever skews out of perfect one-to-one. In the future, surely you can also introduce automated R bots, which are going to help stabilize these values too. So then this pretty much removes any community need to do it. Community could make that themselves. DeFi communities can create lasting economic trust internally. And again, this is something that we really see with MXDAI. We're really seeing with the Mandala ecosystem, the community that they're fostering there is really starting to build economic trust from within it. It's a beautiful thing. Every single token becomes a stable coin backed by hard-coded, predictable redemption. This is something that I cannot emphasize. This chart here that you see, you could launch off Teddy Bear and create a Teddy Bear V3 minter. You could launch off Atropa and create an Atropa V3 minter. You could launch off Pulsex and create a Pulsex V3 minter. And with Pulsex buy and burn, with the Pulsex burn mechanism, it's continuously deflationary. Then you're locking up Pulsex in a V3 contract, which is further deflating it, which means that Pulsex is going to continue to fly even further. And then you have a one-to-one asset with that, which is basically benefiting the ecosystem and creating more sources of liquidity, more sources of arbitrage, and more sources of redeemability. It's absolutely profound. It's absolutely unbelievable what's been created with these V3 minters. It's the building blocks for a future that is fully decentralized, entirely stable, and infinitely composable. Trust, value, and stability completely transform within a system like this. And again, I want to leave you with this. Now, what happens when you pair this idea with a V4 personal minter, which I'm going to explain in the next video, or a buy and burn token, for example? These are just some of the things that you could do. Again, infinitely composable. What happens in a system like this with all the creativity of all the builders on Pulsechain and beyond? So the V3 index minters aren't just clever. In my opinion, they're deeply profound. The one-to-one claim loop fundamentally changes how we can build trust, stability, and predictability into decentralized finance. It could set a new standard for how cryptocurrency ecosystems are designed, built, and trusted in the future. Maybe in a few years, we'll look back and realize this simple undo button was one of the most quietly revolutionary ideas in cryptocurrency. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I really, really hope that you're getting and these ideas are clicking into your mind about what the V3 minters mean, and then basically how you can build your own ecosystem. So if you love this episode as much as I love putting it together and presenting it, please leave some comments below. Please share it out. Please like it. I really, really appreciate it. This was hours and hours and hours and hours to put this presentation together, and I loved it. And I really hope that you loved it too. So thank you very much, everybody. Take care.